What's happening, fam? L.A.R movement still moving. Book entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father. Amazon Kindle Create Space. Y'all don't know about LTD. America's number one investment is war. Last week I was listening to Jack Ma talk about how America spent more, how America lags is getting behind in the world because instead of investing in infrastructure, America invested in war. And I started thinking, mulling this over, and I was like, that's a very true statement. So let's address this in a few different ways. One is, there was a war. America's inception to now has been war has been at some point in war. Like that's one of the consistent things about this country's history is war. Whether it's war with Britain, France, Mexico, Native Americans, uh, slave rebellions, each other in the Civil War, World War One, World War Two, the Gulf War, the war in Iraq, the other war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war on drugs. We say now there's like a war on masculinity, then there's a war on femininity, then there's the gender war, then there's the war on, how can I say, well, it's a war on crime too, right? You know, there's a race war. It's every kind of war conceivable, which is crazy, but also diabolically ingenious. Because what has been one of the driving things in this economy that they can't get over is war. There was a time when people thought war brought jobs. Well, because of this mentality and this ideology, people forget that war stifles innovation, war stifles creativity, war stifles growth, war stifles the ability to progress, because you're constantly destroying and rebuilding, destroying and rebuilding. You're never really building upon something. Just like now, in some ways, people don't understand the war. We need soldiers for war, and that's part of the war on families. Whether it's divorce and single parenting, whether it's just cohabitating. The two places in this plant, the two places in America which are ran by structure and discipline, which is missing in the households of broken families, are either prison or the military. So either way, you're going to get slave labor or soldiers to die for your cause. Because war, in some ways or another, has that investment. Sometimes people don't look at it that way, but to me, there is no concentration of creating families. And for this to be a capitalistic society, and capitalism is supposed to be what runs this country, it's funny that family is not at the forefront of anything, because a lot of these businesses that are that we look at are family businesses. A lot of the industries that this capitalism revolves around are started with family businesses. You know, Walmart is a family business. McDonald's started as a family business. These pizzerias, family businesses. You know, um, automotives, family business. Aviation started with family business. You know, but because of us not looking at the whole picture, the bigger picture, where if there isn't any family, see, banks might not banking family business. You understand what I'm saying? Um, but you look back at a lot of successful people, and usually their first investors were family members. My uncle gave me this, my aunt gave me this, my dad, my mom, my grandparents. They gave me the seed money for my business. You know, a lot of these expansions that you don't really understand, um, where you don't realize that businesses are connected, or you don't understand how a, a particular company that does this winds up doing something like this, is because that family business, people in that family business had different dreams, so they funded their dream and created another business. Which brings us back to America investing in war. You notice when Jack Ma talked about we didn't invest in infrastructure, they've been fighting with former President Obama with infrastructure jobs, and now current President Trump, I remember him talking about infrastructure jobs. It was the same thing they was fighting against, but whatever. Even with that, infrastructure comes in some ways on the heels of the war on terror. We need to keep people out. Well, and I've said this before, most other countries' money, currency is backed by some type of resource. I personally believe that our US dollar is backed by military, because you got to accept our dollars because we got more guns than you. That's just how it looks to me. Which, when I look at the currency being that way, you can't. I look at everything else like everything else is just war related. You know, our infatuation with entertainment and not enlightenment comes from, you need a break from the rat race. You need a break from the casualties of whatever propaganda, whether it's psychological or physiological or food or poverty, because there was a war on poverty too. And here's the thing about all of these wars. If you notice, all, all of these wars aren't successful. You know, what was the last successful war? I mean, because if when a war is successful, it brings up a bit of peace, maybe a time of antiquity. But there is no peace here. There is no antiquity. It's always something. And I don't think this country knows how to function without drama. This is why other countries are catching up to this country. This is actually why black people, we've caught are fastly catching up with everybody else in America, even though everybody else had, at least even immigrants had 100-year head start at the minimum. You get what I'm saying? Because we was behind everybody ever since slavery to 1964, but really the 80s, because that was when the the Fair Housing Act actually took place. That's actually when they put some policy behind it because of the discrimination. So even though it's not a level playing field, we've been playing on a semi-level playing field for between 50 something to 30 years, you know? And that's because the war kind of died down as far as casualty of life was concerned. It's always been a war, but not to the same level, not with the same pressures. Um, but all of these wars are dragging this country down. See, the war on drugs got too many people hooked. Got too many people. Will put too many of the wrong is going to put too many of the wrong people in jail, so they don't want to do that. The war on terror is really just making this country just a place full of cowards who don't know what to do and don't know where they're going. The war on poverty never really worked because the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. Um, there's a war on obesity, even though the country's getting fatter, and you don't understand how we can grow so many fruits and vegetables, but we still have to overfish and over. It's like it's a war on the planet also, because we're just draining all the natural resources out of the planet without replenishing them at the same rate. And at the same time, you know, people aren't producing as much as they used to. So, even with negative birth rates. So our affinity for war has created a self-destructive society that doesn't respect its infrastructure. So in some ways, it's just slowly crumbling. And when Martin Luther King said he feared his fear was he was integrating his people into a burning house. Um, it's on fire now, pimp. It's on fire, and fire spread fast. Just saying. Peace.